Thanks for watching this video. Today we're going to remove the front wheel of a Honda Valkyrie. First thing we need to do is loosen the axle bolt. So unfortunately I clipped that off, but that was the first thing I did was loosen that 22mm bolt on the front fork. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the bolts which hold the calipers onto the front forks. When you take this caliper off, wiggle it just a little bit. What that's going to do is separate the pads inside the caliper, and it'll give you more room to get the caliper past the brake rotor and past the wheel without doing any damage. So now we're jumping over to the left side. We're going to do the same thing here. Just remove the two bolts that hold the caliper on. Again, so I'm not sure where that washer came from, but there are no washers on your brake system. But again, we're just going to grab that caliper and wiggle it. Just give it a little push, and that pushes those pads against the brake rotor and pushes those pistons in just a little bit within the caliper, and it allows the caliper to slide off more freely. So now we're going to take a hex head socket and we're going to break loose the pinch bolts which hold the axle into the forks. So we're not going to take them out, we're just going to loosen them just enough that they spin freely. So the owner of this Valkyrie apparently jacked up this hex head bolt, and you can see where it's rusty where the other one isn't. And it's probably not the original part either. So somebody who put this on did not use a torque wrench to tighten that down. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take a brass hammer along with my socket, and I'm just going to pound it into there. I put a little WD-40 in there and hoping that'll help loosen it up once it starts turning. So I'm just going to hammer my socket into that bolt. Usually if I have like a spare bolt laying around in the shop, I'll go ahead and replace that bolt for the person who owns the bike. But yeah, there's no reason why that socket or that bolt should have been so tight and rounded off. That was just poor technical skills by the last person that worked on the bike. So I'm centering the bike on my floor jack now. I'm using a Sears motorcycle lift. I got this many years ago. I don't think the Sears quality is as good as it was back in the day. But anyway, the yellow one is better than the red one if you're going out to buy one. But I'm not sure if I would buy from Sears at this point in time, because everything at Sears comes from China, and not everything from China is the greatest. So what I do is I just put a Allen key into the axle and I turn it. It's not threaded, but once you start turning it, it will work its way out. And then once it's out, you just pull the speedo cable out of the way and remove the wheel. So now we have a new tire on the wheel, and what I just showed you was the spacer in the axle. And what I like to do is put a light coat of grease on the spacer that goes on the right side, and I like to put a little bit of grease in the little runner inside the bearing seal on the right side, and then with the axle I put a light coat of grease on the whole axle, that way it slides out much easier in the future. So I put my axle in the fork and I let it hang there while I grab the speedometer cable, and I line the speedometer cable up. So there is a notch on the fork, and you need to make sure that the speedometer cable, the speedometer mechanism, is on the far side of that notch, and then you slide your axle in. And I don't know if you can see it in this video, but I completely screwed up the speedometer cable. It is too high in the back of the fork right now. It should be down about 2 inches. It should be almost parallel to the ground when you have the speedometer on the wheel properly. See, right now the speedometer should not be moving back and forth, and yes, I did end up having to pull this axle and redo that. It's not in the video though. But again, now we're going to, when you're installing yours, you're going to put the axle bolt in first. You're going to tighten that down. Do check your manual. Your owner's manual will have the torque specs for that bolt. I don't normally put torque specs in my videos. You're welcome to post on my YouTube page and give the torque specs if you think that'll be helpful. But I found that, yeah, this is a Valkyrie, but a 1998 Valkyrie might have different torque specs than a 2005 Valkyrie, so I don't add them. Do check your owner's manual; they are there. So here's the pinch bolt that's jacked up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my torque on that, and then I'm going to remove my hex head key, and then I can jump on the other 3 and just tighten them down the way they're supposed to be. So again, use the proper torque specs. I use a ratchet to tighten them down initially, and then I put my torque wrench on them and go the rest of the way. If you over torque these, if you over tighten these, you can destroy the threads. The threads are aluminum, so they're gonna get destroyed before the threads on the bolt. So just remember that. So here's where I noticed that the speedo's messed up, and this is why I stopped. So thanks for watching my video, and good luck.